Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 7 of the Rose Tinted Ceilings podcast. Today, we're going to be talking a little bit about FIFA, about advocating for women's rights, about novelists, and today I'm joined with Veronica. Veronica, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, thanks for having me on. I'm Veronica Arreola, and I live in Chicago, Illinois, USA. As you probably could tell by my soccer jersey today. And yeah, so I work in higher ed. I work at a university in Chicago, the University of Illinois, Chicago. I'm also a writer, community organizer, and newly elected official in Chicago.
Wow, congrats on that. That's so
Thanks.
exciting. Thank you so much for joining us. I'd
Of
really love the
course.
chance to get to know your perspective on feminism as
hmm
an advocate with experience and how we can maybe improve gender equality in our communities.
Okay.
So I'd love to start out about knowing a little bit about your journey advocating for women's rights and what inspired you to start.
It's always a good question. I don't know exactly what inspired me to start. I just feel like I was born with this innate sense of fairness and spotting things when they were unequal. I was kind of that annoying kid, who was like, this isn't fair. And I think a lot of kids, I think the grown-ups in my life must have given me space to say it's not fair and then allow me to try and do something about that. And so I did. I just tried to do a lot about that. And I particularly um, identified that things were unfair for girls when I was a girl. I think because I played sports and there weren't a lot of girls who were really into sports the way I was. And then that came to the sense of boys are just naturally better at sports than girls. And thus, I spent a lot of time trying to prove my worth on the field in different sports. Um, that did lead me down to a road for a while of some really strong inner misogyny about like I'm this kind of girl because I can play sports, not that kind of girl, which is really I think interesting to be in that headspace right now this summer with the Barbie movie out, because I fought against like lots of trying not to be too feminine when I was younger, because I was not that kind of girl. Um, and so yeah, so I kind of like I despite the fact that I was very much a very strong girls' rights person when I was a girl. I also had that thread of inner misogyny that I didn't discover and realize what that all meant until I was in college and women's studies classes, and then having to unlearn and unpack all of that um, through my adulthood. It's been a journey. I'm always learning.
That is really comforting to hear that you overcame those challenges because I definitely feel the same way. Like for myself and a lot of girls that I know when we were younger too, we didn't want to wear pink because we thought it was too feminine and that people would look at us the wrong way if we did. So definitely hearing that you untangled that within yourself and working on that. That's so great to hear.
Yeah, I mean, it it is that inner misogyny, but it is also like it's a reaction to what people think of,
Hmm.
girls who wear pink and who wear frilly things and um, do very hyper femininity in the world. They get looked at and treated in a certain way. And I think for me, I didn't want to be treated in that way. And when I was a kid, maybe we all go through this as kids. Maybe the younger generation, people who are actually kids right now, have it a little different. But when I was a kid, it really was you were this way or that way. You were either a girly girl or a tomboy, and I was like, I'm clearly
Hmm.
a tomboy, and thus I'm going to do all the things that tomboys do.
For sure. So speaking about kind of the aspect of how children first relate to their femininity or even activism to that point, I know that you did write a book called J's for Justice.
hmm
So I would love to hear a little bit about that book and kind of the goal there.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, JS for Justice came out in May, and it's a board book written for kids around 3 to 5, 3 to 6 years old. And I really did write this book as a way to, I wanted some writers talk about how like you write the book you wish you had or wish you could read. I think when I was writing this book, I was writing this book as like I wish I had had this book when my daughter was this age, and so the publisher had the idea for the book already and was looking for a writer and reached out to me and said, "Would you like to do this?" And I was like, "Of course, yes, absolutely." And it was quite the journey and experience to do this, working collaboratively with my editor. And then they brought in an illustrator to do all of those work. And so I actually never talked to the illustrator of
Oh,
doing
really?
our work. I left her a lot of notes, and she took my notes and just made the book gorgeous.
Because I did see in one of your videos that you said the main character is modeled after your daughter, and I thought that was so sweet.
Yeah, yeah. The cover girl is a little bit like my daughter and me, but definitely the girl that's in the A is for activist panel, the very first page, and she is definitely modeled after my daughter.
That is so sweet. I love that so much for you. I feel like books is such a big way too to inspire young women because I feel like when you're reading as a little kid, or even as an adult too, you really self identify with female characters in books. So
Hmm.
being able to read about females that are empowering, that's so important.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was really great to be able to write this book and leave notes, and the publisher wanting the illustrations to be as diverse as possible. So, getting uh, the 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 cover, one of the cover characters, looking like a Latina, like my daughter, because Latinas look very differently. We're a very diverse group, but looking like my daughter. And then also making sure that we had as many representations as possible throughout the book was really important to the publisher and myself. And it was really great. Any idea I had was really welcomed, and it turned out, like I said, it just turned out so gorgeous. I was just so happy when I finally saw it in my hand and was definitely crying.
Oh, that's so nice. I love that so much. So right now, I know that you're in New Zealand
Yes.
for FIFA's. And how is that going? I really want to hear about that. That's so exciting.
It's really great. It was a really long plane ride. It was like 16 and a half hours, but
Wow.
it went well. I have a gift of sleep, so I slept most of the way, so I'm really good. But it's been great. I'm in Auckland, which is where Eden Park is, where a lot of the one of the sites of the World Cup. So I was able to go to the opening night of the entire World Cup, which is
Wow.
where New Zealand won their first match ever, men or women in their World Cup, and it was amazing. It was so great. Auckland is such a cute city, and Kiwis, New Zealanders are amazing, so friendly, and the place was just so energetic, but in this like chill energy, which was definitely different than when we went my friend and I that I'm staying at her place. We went a couple days later to see the US play, and it was like that American energy, which was like frenetic and like off the wall and like people everywhere. And I think it also was different because uh, all the Americans had to take a train to get to the park and then leave. And so the trains were packed. Whereas with New Zealand, New Zealanders probably were like, I'll take the bus, I'll take the train, I'll drive, I'll walk, that kind of thing. So it didn't feel as en masse. It felt like more they were trickling in, where the US was just like, and we're here. Um, and we just bring a lot of different energy, our red, white, and blue. And I saw a couple guys dressed up like founding fathers, and
Wow.
we take things to another level.
I'm
But
so surprised about that.
oh yeah, no,
Yeah, like
we're really good at that.
I never thought that there could be like a chill soccer game, if that makes sense.
Right. I think that there was energy, but the energy was like on a 7, I would say. There were definitely moments in the game where it was definitely like off the charts, but the I think the Americans, like, we start off at 9. So, so so things are just sort of like just like off the wall, and they were playing. Uh, and the good example is that pregame they're playing music, and um, at the U.S. match they were playing Bon Jovi. And and like
I
the
love
crowd
Bon
just started
Jovi.
sing right the crowd just started singing along. I think because there was just that's just what we do in the States, as we sing along to music at sporting events.
Bon Jovi deserves it. I agree with
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah, exactly. Um,
Well, since I wasn't there myself, I was looking at like a lot of clips because I
hmm
wish I was. So, and I've been seeing like CIBC ads for
Uh-huh.
women's soccer, and that just really surprised me because I've never seen that in past years. So it looks like they have a lot of sponsors this year, which is great. And I'm not sure if this is right, but I want to say that they have 32 teams this year for women's.
I think you're right. Yes, 32 teams this year. It's the biggest World Cup they've ever had.
Wow.
And so far, I've been watching a lot. So I've only gone to two matches in person, but watching a lot of TV and hanging out at restaurants, bars, watching soccer. And it's been really competitive. There's only been a few blowouts, and nothing near nothing as close as the like I think it was 13-0 that the US blew out Thailand last World Cup. It's been more about like 5 or 6-0, which is still significant, but the less experienced teams seem to be really bringing some really strong keepers this year. Um, and like the US only won 2-0 where against Vietnam, where I think a lot of people thought it was more going to be closer to 5 or 6. And we we had almost 30 shots on goal, I think, and only scored two, and they blocked an Alex Morgan penalty kick. So the keepers are really earning their are earning their worth this year. It's been really great to see. I mean, the higher competition just means a better viewing for all of us.
Yeah, that is exciting. I hope that you enjoy the rest of your games there.
Oh, thanks.
This is a big topic jump, but it's a more
Uh
chill
huh.
topic, I guess. So, I did read that you expanded the Women in Science and Engineering program at UIC.
Uh huh.
Like, yay, women in STEM.
Yes.
That's exciting. So, I would love to hear about maybe some of the barriers you faced while you were expanding this, because I'm sure that there were challenges.
Yeah, yeah, I was the director of our Women in Science and Engineering program, almost 10 years ago. I haven't been there for almost
Wow.
10 years. But I think some of the barriers were there were two different kinds of barriers. There were barriers from people who um, thought that it didn't really matter that what the representation looked like because in the US, women make up about 60% of the people who are going to college in university. And so at UIC, we're about that same split in terms of the genders. And we have, and so it's sometimes for some people, it's hard for them to see that that it's in, that it's important for women's representation in STEM when it feels like there are women everywhere in the university. And then when you go into the different subject matters like biology and biological sciences, chemistry, women are also the majority, so we're around 55%. And so the idea of an entire women in STEM program um, feels too much for some people. I definitely heard like, well, if you just focused on computer science or physics, then I guess I can see what we're doing here. But it's really hard to change an entire system if you're only focused on a few subjects. And a lot of the things we were working on in terms of mentoring, changing curriculum, was about like really basic fundamental courses. And so that meant that impact was reaching further than just a few majors that are where women are definitely underrepresented. Um, and then there were some other um, barriers just about funding um, and trying to be able to get things as, let's see. how to say put this. So it's one of those things where like if you get a certain amount of money and then you have a certain amount of success and then you say, well, if you doubled that money, I can give you even more success.
Hmm.
And then those are the hard parts of building up programs anywhere, higher education, nonprofits, probably even in business, is being able to um, take your success and take it to the next level, um, and get the resources that you need in order to do that.
Right. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Hmm.
So with you being a feminist, this is a very vague topic, so you can take a poke at it however you'd
Uh,
like. What can still be improved regarding women's rights in the world or
whew.
just where you live?
Um, gosh. Well, the U.S. is in a state of intense backlash. So right now, I really feel like it's a matter of just staying focused on moving us forward, when it feels like we are doing nothing but playing defense at the moment. And I continue to tell myself this and other people that we would not be in such an intense moment of backlash if we weren't winning. We aren't, we aren't winning so all the time in the policy area. Too many states have restrictions on abortion and reproductive health, transgender rights, um, and lots of other spaces like that. But if you talk to people, and poll after poll shows this, and you just talk to people individually, I think individual hearts, we are winning. People are um, understand that sometimes people need to have access to safe abortion, that everyone should have marriage equality, nobody should be discriminated based on their race or who they love. All of these things, I think we are winning on the ground. It's just a matter of us winning at the polls, winning in policy spaces. And so I just keep that in mind, as we continue to fight for an expansion and restoration of women's rights, women's and feminist rights, um, for everybody in this country.
I definitely agree with what you're saying because as a Canadian, from an outsider point of view, seeing things about US news, for example, I think it was the 303, just the law about businesses now being allowed to say no to
Yes.
transgender peoples, or the abortion law, for example. It just all seems so chaotic and scary. But then talking to people who actually live in the US about their thoughts and opinions on this, people seem like they have beliefs or just
Hmm.
they are very strong with their beliefs and are really willing to fight for what they think is right. That's a great
Yeah,
thing.
absolutely. I think that is true, and we've seen it's not just here. I know that Canada has its issues. As I've been in New Zealand, hearing from Kiwis about their own political issues, they have an election this year. Ours is next year. I think yours is also probably next year as
Mhm.
well. And so that's another thing to think about in terms of what we can do forward, is that especially in this time where our countries are so close to each other in terms of economics, but also politics, is that what happens in one country does reverberate in others. So to have each other's back is really important, and to learn from each other. And yeah, it, to see this as a global fight, as opposed to just like it's not just one state in one country.
100%. Yeah. So, I think to close us off, I just love if you could give a note on how can young people like me and my friends who are watching, how can we make a difference in this issue?
Oh, well, I mean, gosh. So my daughter's 20, so I know that, and I work with college students, so I feel like I have a good sense of what y'all are doing with your time. And I think just keep it up. Just keep talking to each other. Share things on social, use your platforms, no matter if you're only reaching 10 people or 10,000 people. Every person you talk to, and share information with is one more person who's learning, and you're sharing with, and then you learn from other people. And you just keep talking and keep learning, keep sharing, keep doing things. Every little thing helps. And just get involved and to understand. So, as I am a student and I study feminist history, and I know for me, my generation stood on the shoulders of giants, and you all are standing on my shoulders. And we just keep building and building. And every generation builds higher, does some corrections, pushes things further. The idea when I was your age, I would never have thought that marriage equality would have been a thing in this country, or that transgender folks could live as openly as they are, despite the threats, the clear threats. But um, so much continues to change, and it's changing faster than I would have anticipated. And I think things will just continue to change faster than maybe even you all can anticipate. And but that change happens because every generation keeps pushing further and further. So just keep pushing. I love the ethic of Gen Z, and really hope that I have a lot of aspirations and hope for you all and cheering you on.
Aw, thank you so much, Veronica, for joining me
Uh-huh.
today and giving some insight.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.